So the final trailer for Tears of the Kingdom is finally here, and it is absolutely full of interesting details and secrets, even some that are only visible for a few frames at a time. So rather than just highlighting a few of those things like I did last time, I figured we'd try something different. So today we're going to slowly walk through this trailer and see what kind of interesting details and information we can pull from it. So let's go. All right, so we've got the trailer running at 0.75 speed. I'm still just like blown away by all these sky islands. You can see there's so many of them connected over in the side here. We can also see some of the towers, the new towers with the floodlights. Also here we see a construct and a choo-choo fighting each other. So it looks like maybe there's some kind of conflict between the constructs and then the normal enemies. I wonder if we'll see like a lot of that going on, or like how much they'll flesh that out. That'll be kind of interesting. I wonder if we'll be able to use them against each other a little bit. We also have the ranger construct here, chopping a tree, which is really interesting. I don't know why he's doing that exactly, but he is trying to kill the tree. And obviously we have this shot of Link dropping down. We have a possible labyrinth over here. A lot of people have talked about how these box things might be a labyrinth. We also have the green swirl rock down here. I've seen several people saying that these might be similar to shrines, and I'm kind of inclined to agree. There's a shot later that really kind of makes me think that that might be true. So I'll show you that when we get there. We also get a really good view of these green canister things that Link has in so many shots for this game. I'm really curious what these will actually do. I don't know if it has something to do with the power functions or if it's like a health thing. I really don't know. And here we can see more sky islands just spread all over the place. There's a tower over here. There are interesting malice holes, and we've seen these in a lot of different shots. I don't know if these are like an entrance to something. I'm fairly convinced this game is going to have an underground portion, and I will also kind of show you that later. We also have more of the, I don't know exactly what to call it, like artwork that shows up on the ground. I can't tell exactly what this one is, but we do get another one here. There we go, right here. This one's definitely a Molduga. So it seems like, and this one's really small too, which is interesting, but it seems like there's a lot of creatures, maybe items, something like that, like drawn on the overworld. I don't know exactly what that's going to be for. I guess we'll find out. Here's another good view of the towers with the floodlights around there. I assume we'll be able to pick up these lights and use them in Ultra Hand constructions by taking over these towers. I'm very curious how these are going to work. Okay, so now we're in the shot. There's a lot going on here. We can see there's a lot of like this rubble everywhere. I'm curious if these will all work with the recall function, or if it's only certain ones that you actually see falling. Because if they all work, there's a lot of them. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity to get up just based on that. And we also see one of these rocks here. This is one of the things that normally has the swirl around it. It doesn't have that right now. So I don't know if this one is completed or the other one is completed. I would assume that this one is, since there is no swirl, but obviously we don't really know. We also see this big ring thing back here in the background that fell from the sky that is shown in other sections of this trailer as well. There's also some of that artwork on the ground over here in the woods. You can see it kind of like in between the trees. It's hard to tell which one that is. I imagine maybe it's the Molduga. So this one's super interesting. So we get another kind of closer view of the tower here. They're very different from the Sheikah towers, so these are obviously not related to those. But the more interesting thing is that this is definitely Hiteno. We have the cloths over here from the dye shop kind of proving that, as well as just the overall geography in the buildings. But it looks like for some reason, the people of Hiteno have become very obsessed with mushrooms. I guess they watched the Mario movie. But we have a big mushroom construction thing here. We have these little guys. This one, I don't know if that's like an umbrella thing or if it's just a mushroom. They're literally wearing mushroom hats. It looks like we have a mushroom shirt over here. This must be the clothing shop. And general store over here doesn't look too obsessed with mushrooms, at least in our shot. But yeah, there's a lot of mushroom things going on in Hiteno, which is very, very odd. Okay, so here's another one. So this is the area in front of the castle, if I'm not mistaken. So it looks like we have a pretty recently thrown up kind of encampment over here. The interesting thing to me is there's no one here. So it looks very fresh. You can see kind of different areas of lumber around. We've got this cart over here. Looks like maybe some wood underneath this thing, and there's a little bit of a base going on here. But Link seems to be the only person here, so I don't know if we abandoned this or if they're just off duty right now. I'm not sure, but it does look like they're kind of trying to reconstruct some things. But Link is just kind of walking through this camp here. We have another good view of these green swirl thingies. I still am pretty convinced this is going to be a shrine. This is Kakariko, though. We can tell by the buildings down here. It's hard to tell what angle we're looking at, but this makes me very curious, kind of the timeline of the game, because this looks like it's fallen from one of the Sky Islands, but it looks like it's been there for quite a while. Like a lot of these over here are kind of embedded into the cliffside. So I don't know. I'm just curious what the time gap between the two games is going to be, as well as if there's any kind of time travel shenanigans going on in the game. I don't know, but there's a lot going on geography wise here. We also see the castle in the background that is raised up. So yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. This appears to be one of the Zonai ruins, maybe Typho ruins, I think is the name. This is interesting as well. We have a big cyclone, and I think there's some other shots later in the trailer where we're actually inside the cyclone, but this reminds me a lot of Skyward Sword because we have the big cyclone in Skyward Sword that you can fly into. So that's another tie into that game, as well as the Sky Islands and everything. Now this is super interesting. Obviously we have another swirl over here. I'm kind of blocking it. Let me move to the other side. We have a swirl here. This is apparently a dungeon that's rising from the ground. I'm very curious if this is going to be the Arbiter's Grounds. I was talking with Larry, our editor friend, last night about this, and he seemed to think this was going to be Arbiter's Grounds as well. I really hope so. That's like one of my favorite areas in Twilight Princess, and this could be really similar to that. It also seems to maybe confirm that we are getting full dungeons, if that's actually what that is. So I'm really hoping that's the case. Then we get some rocks falling, like a bunch of them, as the castle raises up. This is interesting as well. These appear to be villagers from Kakariko, so Sheikah people that are watching this happen. And then we have again another kind of lumber site, like a construction site thing. It works out really well that they're reconstructing Hyrule at the same time as Link gains the ability to use this wood and like stick it all together. That works out super well. We get our first look at presumably Ganondorf from behind here, kind of looking like Demise. This is interesting as well. So this we'll kind of come back to in a little bit, but if you see his hand, he doesn't have like the arm thing on yet, and it's very obvious that the malice has damaged his hand. But what's interesting to me is that the skin tone underneath the malice burns and the fingernails, like everything, it looks very different from what it does under the arm bangle thing, whatever you want to call it, that he gets later. We'll come back to that. So as Zelda starts falling, we can see a lot of glowing happening both in her hand and then in this general area as well, which is interesting. I'm not sure what the cause of that could be. She also does not appear to have the Sheikah slate. We've got various sinkholes here. I'm wondering if this is going to be kind of an entrance to underground. Possibly. It might just be death if you get down in there. I really don't know. But this takes me back to the green swirls potentially being shrines, because if we look over here, there's a pretty clear door or portal of some kind on the side of this thing. And I'm pretty sure this is the first shot that we've seen that actually shows this part of it. And it doesn't have the swirl above it either. So that's really interesting. We also have more character art on the overworld. We have an apparent Bigfoot sighting, according to what this looks like. It reminds me of kind of the Zonai looking character that's in the mural, but the foot appears to be huge. So I'm not really sure what I'm looking at here. And real quick before we continue on, if you're enjoying so far, please hit the like button and consider subscribing. We are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and if you could help out with that, I would greatly appreciate it. But on to the rest of the trailer. Okay, there's no way that this game doesn't have an underground area, at least some. It might not be across the entire world seamless like the rest of it is, but it has some, because this is clearly underground. We see these big ruins, rocks coming down, lava falling. It's possible that could be a dungeon. We also have these boats. So a couple things about this. The boat has kind of a bird-shaped head. It also looks like these oar things sticking out, look like feathers. So I'm assuming this has something to do with the Rito. Would make sense. There's also a bunch of them in the background. You can kind of see the shadows of all of these guys. They also, which we get a better shot of it later, have like a flat top to the sail. So they have this one and then this one. So I'm assuming that's going to be so you can use Ascend to get up on top of it. And we actually see that happen later. This trailer has like so many rapid fire things. So right here, so obviously we have traversal through these kind of water bubbles, which is very interesting. You have a new animation for the jumping, which I think comes back later as well. The other thing that's interesting, so in the last video, I pointed out that the Ascend ability kind of became available as soon as Link went down in the water and was submerged. So I'm wondering if it kind of took you back to the surface. They have the HUD disabled here, but it looks like we have an animation for Link to be underwater. He is moving on an upward trajectory, so it's possible he's going to be popping his head out automatically, but I'm wondering if this animation means that we might be able to explore underwater. I don't know. It's possible. Then we also have this giant hole full of laser beams. We have a wingsuit on Link, which is really cool, and that could be a lot of fun. I wonder if this is the big hole that is in the Yiga hideout that we couldn't go into before. It looks similar. It's hard to tell for sure, but that would be my guess at the moment. I don't know. This is some kind of giant gumball device. I don't really know exactly. This is, though, the same large sphere that was in the earlier part of the trailer with the hole in it. It appears to be the same thing. We also have new Zonai weapons and apparently the ability to swing a spear above our heads. This is an interesting shot because it seems to show a lot of different villager characters actually helping Link fight the bokoblins. And I'm not sure if that's going to be like just something that you encounter in the overworld or if you have missions where they come join you or what. We've got like a guy in a fedora over here, it looks like, with a shield. We got a farmer with like a pot on his head with a pot lid shield. There's a farmer with a straw hat over here. So yeah, like just different villagers and farmers helping fight, which is really cool. I hope we see quite a bit of that in this game. Okay, so the next interesting thing is here. It's some kind of elevator. This is definitely Sheikah technology, like we saw in the last one. So we do have the alphabet for these characters. So this right here says transport if you translate it. The ring around here actually says tower over and over and over. Just tower, 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 tower around in the circle. I'll put the alphabet in post here so you can see that and compare as well. But this translates to tower, just going around and around and around. So I'm wondering if those new towers have an elevator in the center that you can go into where they're kind of reusing that Sheikah platform that was on the old towers. I don't know. But my guess is this is an elevator inside the towers. There's also another interesting thing in this shot that Link actually has the Sheikah slate with him and he's got it plugged in to what appears to be just like this giant extension cord thing. I don't really know. It's got the orange markings on it too, so it should be something Sheikah, but it's super interesting that he does have the slate here. So I don't know if we're gonna end up having all the powers. Is his arm damaged in this shot? It almost doesn't look like it is. It's kind of hard to tell. Let me know what you guys think, but it almost looks like his arm might not be damaged here. Okay, so then we get this shot, which is very interesting. We have no clue who this character is. We've never seen anyone that looks like this in Breath of the Wild. They seem to have some kind of like dragon dinosaur-like appearance. My guess, based off of the colors of like the jewelry around here, is that these might be what the Zonai actually look like, which would be really interesting. But yeah, so I'm thinking this might be the Zonai. It looks like in the background there's additional people of some kind. I don't know if this is a foot right here, if you can see what I'm talking about, maybe kind of coming up. There's also someone over here. So I don't know if this is several people that look the same or if this is a very unique person. I don't know. So this one's interesting. This shot is not really interesting because of a lot of details that you can see in it, but rather it's more interesting to me because of a lot of the things that you don't see. In particular, there are no visible sky islands anywhere in this shot. These flowers appear to be new as well. I don't think we've seen these, but there's no sky islands, which is super interesting. I really am thinking there might be some level of time travel in this game. It wouldn't be out of the ordinary for Zelda at all, but it's just really odd that there's no sky islands. Maybe back here, there's like a little spot, but like in most of the other stuff that we've seen, there's been a bunch of them everywhere, just no matter where you look. So I don't know. So here we see this large, like golem almost coming out of the wall. It's very dark in the background. So I feel like this might be an underground thing, or maybe in a large cave, which would be underground. That would make sense. But this guy looks like he's going to be a lot of fun. This is another interesting shot. This is the inner sanctum inside Hyrule Castle. It appears to be totally repaired, but there's also a lot of like sparkle going on through here. So I'm curious whether this might be a vision or maybe like going back to the past. I don't know, but it has a very dreamlike quality to it. So I feel like this is not actually what it looks like. And then we're greeted with this shot of Zelda in some form of Zonai temple. You get a quick view of the Master Sword. The only thing really of note here is you can see there's a lot of Koroks in the background, but this is obviously in the Korok forest, so that's not particularly interesting. We also have Link here grabbing it with a hand that is not yet destroyed. So this is probably either a flashback cutscene or it happens like right in the beginning. Okay, so here's another interesting thing. There's a few details here in this shot that are interesting to me. So the one would be that this body seems to fit with the head of the possible Zonai creature that we found before. And I'll throw an image that I did in Photoshop just really quick in the shot and post so you can see kind of what I'm talking about, but it looks like that would go together. The other interesting thing is that if you look at this hand and the nails and just the way that all looks, and you have the arm bangle here, you're comparing that to Link and his hand when he gets the bangle. It's pretty much exactly the same. So I'm curious if the power of that thing that he's using is literally like turning his arm into a Zonai arm. Is it like an arm transplant? Is it just turning that way because he's using all the power? I don't know. But it's interesting to note that it does look identical to Link's hand after he has that armor brace on. So in this shot, we actually learned that you can combine shields with weapons. I'm very curious if Link is actively guarding here or if by putting a shield on the sword, it gives it kind of like an auto parry. I don't know if you can even use that as an attacking weapon or if it's only for parrying or blocking. That'll be interesting to see exactly how all of the different weapon combinations work. So this is the sphere that was shown earlier. This has the gumball machine thing inside of it. The whole opening looks exactly the same as the view that we get out of it before. So here in this shot, we are inside a cave. There's a couple young Gorons there in the distance, and then Link is getting attacked by presumably a Goron that's rolling. I don't know that for sure though, because the back looks really strange and he never really fully unrolls, but I would assume that this is a Goron. It's also interesting to note that this Goron or whatever it is seems to be wrapped in chains. I don't know if he's a prisoner of some kind or if he just thinks it looks cool. I don't know, it's hard to tell. Okay, so here we see the top of that flat sail that's on top of the Rito ships. We also get who I assume is Teba's child, Tulin, all grown up, looking super adorable. He also has this kind of blue energy around him, which is really interesting. I don't know exactly where that's coming from, but he definitely has these little blue lines kind of coming off from him. And there's another shot later where I think he doesn't have that. So I'm not sure what that means exactly. So this one is exciting for me. So when Nintendo put out the tweet where they were talking about how you would navigate the world, I said that I really wanted to strap like the turbines to Epona and just have like a rocket powered Epona riding through. So in this shot, we can see that you can have this little attachment thing on your horse that can attach to anything. So it's possible that we could pull off a rocket powered Epona. And I'm very curious to see if there's any possible way that we can like speed up the horse. I don't know. It's going to be dumb. It's probably not going to work, but I really want to try it. Also, just kind of cool that we can actually build a cart and we seem to be ferrying these villagers away to somewhere. I don't know exactly where we're going with them. I don't know if this is a side quest. I would assume it's a side quest. There's even little horse cutouts on the side of this. So it looks like that is definitely a part that's intended to be used for this purpose. And here we see that we can use recall offensively. So if you get something shot at you, you can hit that, send it right back at him, which is pretty cool. There's also in the background what might be some kind of entrance covered by a bunch of rocks. I don't know if we're going to be able to blow that up. We also have some tracks that appear to run through here. So here's the rockets. This is going to be a lot of fun. I am very excited to strap rockets to things because that's always a good time. It also looks like we have a shield that we haven't seen before. It's got similarities to the Guardian shields where it has like a little bit of a small area in the middle and then it looks like an energy field around the outside. My guess is this is a Zonai shield that resembles the Guardian shields in the way that it functions and that the rocket is strapped to the shield. I also just had a thought. I wonder if we can make a rocket powered hammer. That would be pretty cool. So in this one, we can see the little water bubbles that were shown earlier. We also have these platforms, but the interesting thing here is I don't know. Link is obviously jumping in a very strange way compared to what he normally does. We have these blue particles everywhere, but it almost looks like an anti-gravity kind of jump. So I'm not sure if these blocks are causing that, if it's a power that we can get. I don't know exactly what's going on with that. We also have a little minecart situation going on here with the turbines attached to them. Something interesting to note is that this background area really resembles the shot in the last trailer where the Bokoblin was mining and they had a lot of stuff going on and it looked like an underground. This seems to be the same area or a similar one at the very least. This is just hilarious. So you have the control stick. It looks like we have some kind of weird like arm thing waving around. There's a rod on the end of it that lights up at a certain point. As if we go back here, yeah, so it's like all dark right there. And then if we go forward a few frames, it lights up. So I don't know if that's going to shoot something at these guys. I don't know exactly how that works. To me, this little tank doesn't look very practical because Link has absolutely no protection. And if you watch this arrow, like obviously the dude missed, but it's like bonk, like you could totally nail him right there. So I feel like we need some kind of protection on the front side. It'd be interesting if we could pilot these things from inside and leave an opening that we could see out of. I don't know if that would work or not. It's going to be a lot of fun to play with these and see how it works. I also love how they have the taluses just like walking around with the goblins all over it. That's pretty great. So this is an interesting one. So my first thought whenever I saw this is that it looked like the little magic orbs in Ocarina of Time, like the fire magic. But looking at it closer, what this is, it's the arrow combo thing that they showed in the last one, because you have the green light first and then you have it coming in after to form sort of a fire arrow. This is actually, let's see, I think we get another good frame here. Yeah, so you can see this little bit sticking out right here. We have this right here. This is ruby. So this is the ore combined with the arrow. So he's shooting a ruby arrow that seems to give it a fire effect. So I imagine like topaz can give you a lightning effect, sapphire water maybe, I don't know. So that's going to be interesting to see how that works. The armor here that Link is wearing is also different. That looks pretty cool. The horse armor I think is a little bit different. This is just crazy. So up here, these are all individual items, and it looks like whenever it activates, they're all rotated a certain way. So we have like the car battery thing attached to something on the bottom. I think this top piece is a wheel, maybe, but they have these laser things attached to it, and it just starts spinning and just going absolutely insane. The bokoblin over here gets hit by it. I don't know whether it actually damages him though, because we don't really get any confirmation of that. We even have this guy in the background with fire choo-choos all filled in his backpack that doesn't really seem to ignite them. The lasers kind of look like they miss, so I don't know. But the reason I'm curious about that is that if all of these are individual and they do actually hurt enemies, what would be stopping us from building like a vehicle that just had these lasers shooting out and spinning all over the place like General Grievous and just like absolutely destroying everything that is in your path? That would be a lot of fun. So this again looks like a shot that's inside that big cyclone. Link is actually wearing some new armor right here. It's really hard to make out, but he has like it almost looks like ice armor. We also see Tulin has the little blue laser lines around him again. And then we have this crazy looking, like, I don't know, like ice spider scorpion thing. I don't know exactly what's going on here. This guy looks pretty freaky though. Okay, so here we get a good shot of Zelda. So this is interesting. My guess, and a lot of other people's guesses, is that these are the literal tears of the kingdom. They give you some kind of power. The symbol on here actually matches the symbol for recall. So I don't know if the others have different symbols that match for the other abilities. I believe that to be the case. But Zelda obviously has a tear here. Also, if you look kind of in the background, she also has the Master Sword with her, which is very strange. And then here we get Ganondorf taking his full form. So in this shot here, he is mummified still. But we go through, he hits the sky beam, infects all the enemies. We get to see a cool shot of these Lionel. We got like Lionel with these giant antlers and like a long sword on his head. This looks like a Lionel sword maybe on top of his head. So these Lionels are looking terrifying. We also get a shot of Link's arm becoming infected as well as the sword. So the malice is coming through. You can see it kind of working its way up his arm underneath even. And then you can see it corrupting the sword underneath as well. So I imagine this is when it breaks, which begs the question of how Zelda has a completed one. I don't know if she goes back. I don't know. Like back in time. I don't know what's happening. Then we get a sick shot of Ganondorf. Absolutely amazing. Even though he was dead, he's still been doing his ab crunches, obviously. Get a good zoom in on his face. This design is perfect. He looks like a cross between every Ganondorf that we've had so far. He looks absolutely amazing. And then also, you can kind of make it out here. It's easier if you do color adjustments like in Photoshop, but he definitely has one of these tear shaped things inside the headpiece that he's wearing. So obviously he has one of them as well. So here's the interesting one. So we have Tulin again, except he doesn't have the blue like glowy lines anymore. They're gone. So something that he gets gives him that ability. And then right here, obviously we have this mystery girl. A lot of people seem to think this is Zelda. I'm not super convinced. I understand why people would think that because the outfit is like literally identical. I feel like this is going to be someone else though. I don't know exactly who this is going to be. On the Breath of the Wild tapestry, there's a lot of theories that the hero character is Ganondorf. The princess character kind of looks like her. It has like the darker skin like she does compared to her hair. So maybe there's something to that. I really don't know. And she also obviously has one of these tears on a necklace that's very glowy at the moment. So in my reaction video, when I saw this scene right here, I said Urbosa. It's not Urbosa. I'm aware of that now. instant reaction. It felt like Urbosa. I saw the scimitars and the lightning and thought that was the case. Obviously, though, this is Riju. She looks a little older. She's dual wielding scimitars, which is amazing. We also can just barely, right here, tell that she has a tear as well. So it looks like she's got one right here, kind of in her hair. And then we get a little shot of Link with some sort of party of heroes. We have a Goron, we have a Gerudo, a couple of villagers. We've got this dude who brought a bucket, put it on his head, and that's all he needed. He's got some kind of club back here as well, but this guy's gonna go places, I think. Then we get this super cool shot of Sidon, who also has the blue lines all around him for some reason. I don't know where that comes from. It could signify that they have the tears, maybe, that are activated, because Sidon and Tulin actually have one as well, which we see here a little bit later. This construct is also new and looks really cool. Sidon is absolutely massive and destroying this guy. His animations look so great. There's a ton of detail in the background here, but it's like impossible to tell what any of it actually is. These almost maybe look like faces up here. I'm not sure exactly what's going on here. There's so much stuff in the background, but I really just can't tell what it is. The color here kind of looks like those battery deals. I don't know if there's some over there, but yeah, it's difficult to tell. So here we go. So in this shot, we get a quick glimpse of the fact that Sidon has his own tier, and it's blue with a different symbol on it. So that's pretty cool. And there's even a quick flash of Tulin with his little green one, as well as possibly a Goron weapon. So Daruk, or maybe Yunobo, not Daruk, it's probably Yunobo, is back there as well. So here we get a look at a couple things. We have the Gliok, if that's still what it's called, the three-headed dragon that's from like the original Zelda game, looking absolutely huge and amazing. We also see this crystal shard weapon that looks really cool. We get another shot of Zelda with the Master Sword, and then obviously the logo. And then here in the background, we can see the like mural carving thing that we saw before with the enemies coming through the malice, but then we get the full version with Ganondorf in the background, so that's pretty neat. And then we have the final shot where Zelda is still holding the sword, and she says, "Link, you have to come find me." And again, like the other shot, it's interesting because there are no sky islands. This is a big empty sky. So obviously she's not in the same Hyrule that we are as Link. So I'm very interested to see how that plays out exactly. But there's definitely some shenanigans going on here. All right, and then that's the end of the trailer. Obviously, there's going to be some things that I probably didn't notice. So if you see anything, leave it in the comments down below. Also, just want to throw out there that we are going to be streaming Tears of the Kingdom on day 1 for pretty much the entire day, as well as several days after that. So again, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on that. And then I will see you guys in the next video. But on to the rest of the trailer.